It looks like they're nerfing Anivia's ultimate a little bit here. I don't think that's gonna have a major effect on her. Deathfire Touch mainly getting nerfed on dot damage over time abilities will have bigger effect than that. Ash Ranger's Focus now has a maximum of and is castable at 4 stacks, down from 5. I think that's like a functionality change. It'll be pretty much the same. Alright, so I don't really like Bard, but Bard will be a little bit more useful now, basically. Brand mana cost increase. This is going to nerf support brand maxing W. Maybe a different skill order will be necessary. Or maybe they'll still max W for the damage. Who knows? But this is gonna hurt lane brand actually as well. So you might want to go for a little bit more Doran's rings in solo lane, maybe. Maybe you go like 2 Doran's rings for sure. At least now. Caitlyn. I'm just gonna skip Caitlyn. Effects of Cleaver. Mundo nerf. Pretty much needed. Hecarim nerf. It's pretty much needed. I don't really agree that he needs to have his unit collision removed, but I guess they compensated Devastating Charge by giving him ignore unit collision when he's on Devastating Charge. Kindred, small ultimate nerf. This is just 10 seconds at rank 1. Kog'Maw no longer has a 1.25% AD ratio now, so deals 2% flat damage. This is just more tuning for Kog'Maw because he's not in the greatest state right now still. It's a little bit better, but still not the greatest. This is all assuming that this makes it to live, by the way. It's not 100% confirmed that all these changes will make it to live. Assuming they do, though. Malzahar damage lowered 2% at max rank. This is going to change your skill order for Malzahar potentially. Since rank 1 W is still the same value, Q and E max are buffed in comparison to this patch. So W, you're going to want to max last on Malzahar, most likely as a result of this nerf. Whereas before you could comfortably max it because it had so much synergy with your ultimate. You could max your E first now, 100% of the time, whereas before you might have had more choices. Mastery, no real change here, that's just a tooltip. Misfortune, I agree with these nerfs. I think that she'll still be in a good spot based on her changes, and this is not going to overdo it. Italy damage increased to 60, 77.5, 95. So this is basically just like a little bit of early game damage on her Q. This is going to help her jungle clear for Nidalee, and a little bit of damage in lane if you happen to play her there, which I'm not really expecting too much. Quinn nerf is greatly needed. I'm not confident they needed to nerf her base damage, but that's a good way for them to not have to gut the rest of her kit. So these are pretty good changes. She was hitting a little bit too hard, admittedly. Rammus Powerball, slow duration lowered to 2 seconds from 3 seconds. I think that's going to be the major change here. And probably make his win rate fall closer to 50% after this change. But the hitbox also got reduced on his Powerball. So that's just going to be like, I don't know, I guess there's some compensation change that he will now not try to path around minions when you click beyond them, but I wasn't a big fan of Rammus before this anyway. I used to main him in like season 1, so admittedly I'm a bit biased, but I still think he's got some play pattern issues where if he gets behind he's not really useful at all, and this is gonna exacerbate that problem. So he's gonna be pretty much feast or famine after this change. Riven base health regen per second increased to 1.068 from 0.668. So this is basically 0.4 more health regen per second, which is about 2 health every 5 seconds. Pretty decent because her health regen was really low from synergizing with Ravenous Hydra. I know that they nerfed her health regen multiple times because of her synergy with that item. Now that we're in season 6 preseason, and her sustain was just like pretty low, so they needed to do something. And that is a welcome change. Now you won't have to go the resolve tree at all. But admittedly, on this patch, Riven is going to be a monster with Thunderlord's Decree, and this is the patch of Thunderlords, but we'll get to that in a second. Sivir's bonus damage on her W went from 50 to 70%, up to 60 to 80%. So basically, if you only put 1 point in it, it's gonna be as if you put 3 points in it on this, on the patches before. You could still leave it as a 1-point wonder, or you have the option to max it now. I think it's slightly better than W when you're ahead, but I mean it's slightly better than Q when you're ahead, and slightly worse when you're behind. Skarner, I'm just gonna skip Skarner. Soraka really needed this nerf. Star Call's range, that's whatever. That's pretty much not even an important change, but the most important change is that the mana cost is increased on her heal. So late game team fights, it's going to cost 60 mana up from 40. And early on in the lane, she's not going to have that infinite sustain quite as early without running mana regeneration, which she can easily do. And then another big change is Wish no longer removes grievous wounds. Although, with the changes that they made to grievous wounds, having it only affect self-healing, Wish should not be affected by this change anyway, but I guess they want to remove some of that invisible power. Sway never move duration reduced to 1 from 2 at all ranks. Scales up to 2 seconds still. This is probably an alright change. I just hope that they don't double dip on the nerfs on champions that were doing well with Deathfire Touch. So hopefully that's not going to put him in the dumpster. Tahm Kench Devour no longer gives movement speed when running away from enemy champions while holding an allied champion. So the cheeky little support Tahm thing to do is just max out your CDR and sit next to your AD carry and give him as much teamfight utility as you can over and over. So basically he never dies, and they're taking away a little bit of that. So Tahm might be incentivized to get up in your face a little bit more. I don't think these are the end of the changes for Tahm Kench. I think he'll probably get a small damage nerf in the future, and they might make him a little bit less tanky. But he's not hitting quite as obnoxious as the last few patches. He's a little bit better now in terms of dealing with him. Twisted Fate wildcards damage lowered. And some of these changes were on the PBE but are not actually going to make it through. That's why this is crossed out. Damage lowered to 60 from 60, 110, 160, 210, 260. So this is basically 20 damage at max rank Q. And it's 5 damage at rank 2, 10 damage at rank 3, 15 at rank 4. So it's the same at level 1. I don't think this will change any skill orders for Twisted Fate players, because your Q and your W are going to be your main source of damage. So yeah, it's not really a big deal. 20 damage at max rank, that's really not that big a deal. Short fuse, no deals double damage to structures, whatever. Dead Man's Play health reduced to 500 from 600. Still going to be a good item. This nerf is probably warranted. Essence Reaver now, this is worded really bad. I'm not going to put you through that. But basically it means that the maximum cooldown reduction you can get from Essence Reaver is 30% now. 10% from the base and 20% from any additional crit chance you'll get. Firesight Alteration, this is the blue trinket. Cooldown is now 76 to 60 at level 9 to 18, based from 61 to 48 level 9 to 18. So that is a 12 to 15 second nerf. Still going to be a great item, or still going to be a great trinket. Probably the best one still. Vision radius ward decreased to 500 from 900. That's going to be the biggest thing that'll make people switch or go for other trinkets, but I still think this will be the most used one because you can get like permanent vision in your jungle with a little bit of coordination from your team and a couple of blue trinkets. So Phantom Dancer attack speed increased to 45% from 40. Total cost increased to 2,800 from 2,700. This really needed something in terms of base stats. I'm not sure that's going to be enough. And the cost increase doesn't sit that well with me. Pretty much the same situation it was in before. Although Rapid Fire Cannon and Runin's Hurricane have some changes added to them as well. So Rapid Fire Cannon and Static Shift will now take the greatest potential damage instead of just stacking the damage for an attack. This basically means that if both were going to proc on the same auto attack, now only the greater potential damage will be dealt instead of both. That's a decent sized nerf for that combination, which I'm assuming was sort of unintended that they would proc at the same time. The combo should still be pretty good though, based on base stats alone. I'm gonna ignore the rest of these changes. New Assassin Mastery. That's gonna make this and the precision changes down here are going to make Diana and pretty much everyone in the game is gonna run Thunderlords now. The Assassin Mastery is pretty useful for solo laners and junglers. Not so much for AD carry, but you also have that option now as well. And Deathfire Touch got a small buff, but going from 6 damage to 8 damage is not going to be enough for people to go with. Excuse me. Going from 6 damage to 8 damage is not going to be enough to push people off of Thunderlord's Dispatch. Fervor of Battle got nerfed to be only working on attacks and spells that hit champions. Feast got nerfed from 20-second cooldown to 25. So that's going to be giving a little bit less health through the laning phase. But yeah, the major change here is you're going to have hybrid champions going deep into the cunning tree for Thunderlords now for sure, because of the large amount of magic penetration and armor penetration you get. You get like 3 flat magic pen and 5 flat armor pen just for putting 5 points in that mastery, and it also will scale on your level. So compare that to what you would get in the offensive tree, and it takes about 71.5 armor to equal to equal 5 armor pen, and that doesn't even count in the fact that you get the magic penetration as well. So I have separate videos for champion specific masteries, but this is going to be most AD carries now, and I think Corki will be pretty big on next patch. It's not just because of precision and Thunderlords, it's because everything combined will make it so that that's the most optimal choice. When Speaker's Blessing, this is a change to make it so that tanks aren't getting ridiculously overbuffed by shields and heals. Shields and heals, whatever I said. Resolve. Unyielding, some tank mastery nerfs here. Explorer, small buff of 3 movement speed. Not really relevant, but that'll probably not change anything. Veteran Scars changed to flat health from percentage. This is to incentivize squishy carries to go into the resolve tree. Bond of Stone, I think that this change overall is kind of to make up for Unyielding being nerfed a little bit. Base damage reduction increased to 3% from 2%. Damage reduction and damage transfer when near ally lowered to 6% from 8%. So I think this is even better mastery than before. And some jungle changes, not really going to go over too much. And that's pretty much it.